All right, well, I am back with another video doing my sidewalk evangelism in front of the church. Had a really interesting conversation with like 10 high school students who stopped by and kind of surrounded me. And so I'm going to present that whole conversation, but I am going to interject a few times because there was so much going on, so many questions kind of being thrown my way that I couldn't answer them all. So I wanted to offer a little bit of clarification. I think that would be helpful to anyone else who's interested in these sorts of topics. Also, in case any of the students might kind of circle back to the church YouTube page and want to see how it all kind of shook out, I'm hoping they might watch this and might hear some of my response now that I have a little bit more time to respond to all the questions. But I also, because it did get heated a couple of times, about 3 times, it really kind of got pretty high level. I wanted to say something about kind of how I think about evangelism and what we're really trying to achieve. Because most, I think, mainline Protestants and like school chaplains and stuff like that, people that do like campus outreach, they're basically going to try to do a Jesus loves you, come learn more about Jesus kind of message. It's all about, maybe at best evidential apologetics, but really never like a repent and believe type of message to these students. There's not really a challenge that is being issued. It's usually kind of a slow, patient, kind of very modest claims about Christianity, of kind of winsome approach to try to win people to Christ, and that's not really my approach. I mean, I want to get really into the thick of things because I don't know how much time I'll have with students, and I want to like engage them on the issues that are really top of mind. So that usually ends up being something like abortion, which they think they have developed opinions about, but they usually don't. Or something like homosexuality, which, or transgenderism. I mean, where a lot of these people see, as you'll see in this video, one of the students was gay, and so he sat down and we talked for a good while, if you call it talking. I will usually start in the more winsome approach, and I think if you look at the beginning of this video or past videos, it's me trying to get to know someone, kind of trying to feel them out, like see where they're at, see if they have questions, listening and respectful. But that isn't what this was. This was kind of a barrage of multiple people shouting things out. That's why I add some captions to the video so that you can hear what people are saying kind of off camera. And, I'm just trying to respond, and I just couldn't get to it all. And I did lose my cool a few times because I'm trying to respond to, one person over here respectfully, and then someone else is in my ear, and it does get a little bit difficult. But at the end of the day, I show respect by treating them like adults. Other people might say, and maybe you would agree, leave a comment if you think this. Other people would say, I'm not showing respect because I'm not being nice enough. I'm not listening long enough or whatever. But I'm showing respect by giving as good as they give, right? Or giving as good as I get, right? So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is create a posture where I'm indicating that I'm not going to back down from this fight because the church should be respected, God should be respected, the word of God should be respected. This isn't about me being respected. I don't care if they could spit all over me. It doesn't matter to me. This isn't about, as you'll see, someone says, I'm not trying to get a following. I'm not trying to present a message that is really attractive to the audience. I am trying to honor God. I'm trying to present an objective message to a group of people that I don't know, and I think it is a biblical message. And so I'm trying to put the church in a posture where it will be respected, right? I think at the end of the day, that gets us further than basically constantly going to the world and saying, please, 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 if only you'll see how much we love you, then maybe that'll change. Sometimes I just think you have to be a little bit more confrontational. And at the very end of our interaction, not at the end of the video because I have another interaction, but at the very end of this interaction, about 27 minutes into the conversation, I think, you hear some pretty blasphemous claims. And so I think you can kind of come to your own conclusions about what really was going on here. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let's jump into our look at this interaction. Okay, so what's your name?
Donna.
I'm Evan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so do I have your permission to record, by the way?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, so are you like a student in the neighborhood, or?
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, sounds good. So I have the sign and people can see it, but So were there any of those points that you wanted to debate, or more generally, something about the existence of God, or what?
Female and male, I should be allowed to date whatever I want. If I want to date a female, marry a female. I want to date a female. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. So like, male, you don't think there's like a difference between men and women, or you do think there's a difference?
There's no difference. Like we can all mess around, like not like that in a bad way. Like I mean, like we can date whoever we want. Cause like,
yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean can? So like I can get in my car and drive 80 miles an hour down the street. Should I do that?
No, that's just common sense.
Well, yeah. So like I would say it's common sense that. Well, hang on.
Yeah.
Do you want to join too?
Yeah.
Okay, come on. You can see right here what'll be on the camera or not. So okay. So but
you can see it. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Yeah. See, it's
Okay, wow.
it's like the magic. Okay, but like. So what you can do and what you should do are different things, right? Like
Yes.
I can snort cocaine, but I probably shouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like men and women, I would say, like in terms of marriage, like the purpose of marriage is ultimately God said to be fruitful and multiply, to have dominion over the earth, to be a good steward of what He's given. So like only men and women can create children, right?
Yeah.
So like since marriage is for the fostering of family and the
But at the same time, you can also adopt. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah, but
like-
but you would adopt children that were made by men and women.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
Right,
what if
but
I
like-
wanted to date a female? I want to date a female.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm gay right now. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Like,
Because I see you wearing like a cross necklace. So would you say you're a Christian?
no, I don't have a religion.
No. Why you wear a cross?
I like it. I
What-
like crosses. I feel like, in my opinion, I like crosses. I believe in God. I just don't go to church. I don't go to that. I read the
Okay.
Bible. I don't go to
Well,
church.
let's stay on the cross though. Like what happened at the cross?
That's where He died. I know it's disrespectful. Like that's what my people tell me. My people
Yeah.
tell me that I shouldn't be wearing it. That I'm just gonna get the devil to follow me.
Well, it's cultural appropriation. I mean, that's wrong, right?
Yeah, that's what she tells me.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, that's kind of
Because my mom's a Christian.
okay. Yeah. And did she take you to church?
She did, but I stopped going like around 12. But that's because it just not because I didn't want to go, but it's just family stuff.
I got you. I got you. We don't need to make it personal or
Yeah.
anything. But what did you want to argue anything?
Oh,
particular?
I was talking about the. Well, I kind of agree with the gay stuff. Like, I think you should be
What?
able to do whatever you want to do, but I just
Yeah.
don't support it in my family.
Okay.
But with the abortion, I think that it should definitely be legal.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I don't think-
that's the main point.
And
that
I don't
really
think
bothers
that being
me.
gay should be against the law or it shouldn't be allowed. Like, I think you should just be able to do what you want
Yeah.
to do.
Well,
because it really
there's a
doesn't
lot there.
affect anyone else besides the ones that are
Yeah.
doing
What
That's-
do you think about abortion? How do you feel about it?
Yeah. So abortion is the killing of a child.
I mean,
Right, so it's
it's
wrong
not even
for
like a
parents to
child.
go
It's
through-
not even like the child's born.
Sure.
We'll trade spots.
People can probably hear you off camera as well. Okay, but okay, so what is abortion? Tell me what happens. Like, how does it work? Well, you know how
It's
conception
removal
works.
of a fetus, right?
Yeah, feed it. What is that? It's a
Yeah.
Latin word that means what?
It is a baby.
It's a okay.
Live.
It is. I'm
Okay.
gonna be totally honest. It's
So
a
you would
baby.
say even though it's a living baby, you still would have the right as a mother.
I mean, because like it should be allowed because some kids are dumb and having sex at a young age. My
I
bad,
believe-
my
okay.
bad,
I
my
believe
bad.
if the person isn't
I'm outnumbered
fit for
now,
the
like
life-
16-1. But okay.
Hey, can I say something?
Yeah.
Like, think about it. In the wild, it's natural selection in the wild for the mother.
Natural
kill-
selection.
to
That's
kill.
how we govern. That's how we should do like human
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah, because in the wild, in the wild, like
I got you.
like a lion.
And he's saying in the wild, like a weak lion or something. Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, what about like slavery?
That shouldn't be allowed. That's messed
Well,
up.
wait. On natural selection, I
Excuse
mean,
me?
Slavery
Excuse
still
me?
exists.
Do
just
you
not
think
in-
slavery is right?
I don't think that's the
It doesn't
topic.
exist.
all right. So might as well jump in here because this is a common question I'm going to ask and talk about, in this conversation, but in others as well. And just to lay the groundwork here, I think slavery is wrong. The point is that they agree with me that slavery is wrong, as I knew, of course, that they would. So what is slavery? Slavery is one human being owning another human being. It's depriving that human being of their basic fundamental human rights by virtue of their being human. It's looking at a human being as less than human, as subhuman. It's treating them, it's not giving them the full human rights they deserve. What is abortion? It's all those same things. It's just that instead of discriminating against a person because they're black or able to be enslaved, because natural selection, as you'll see, I'm arguing if you become enslaved, it's, I mean, hey, that's just nature. You just lost the battle. You get enslaved. You got trapped. Sorry to hear that. You got to pay off debts. Whatever the case, you're the weaker person. So if you can justify it on those terms, then you can justify abortion as well. Anyway, they never kind of. I'm not sure that they ever really understand the argument that I'm making. It's going to come up over and over again. But anyway, let's keep listening.
In a way you
That's not off topic. That's messed up.
No, it's a corollary. It's a corollary, right? It's in a related topic. So if someone is weak enough to be captured and put into the slave trade, natural selection says then someone else has the right to dominate them.
Yeah, that is.
Okay,
what
all right.
does that
So we agree.
Slave trade wasn't natural selection. It was something made by white men. That was not made by white men.
Actually, every culture on Earth it participated in slavery, right? It was one
What's
group
your
of
religion?
Africans.
What's your religion?
I'm Christian. I'm not saying slavery is right. I'm also not saying killing babies is right.
Hey, wait, it's not a baby when you.
Exactly.
Just sperm cell. No,
It's funny though.
Wait,
'cause
hang on.
Wait, let him
Hang on.
talk.
Conception is when sperm and egg come together. When sperm and egg come together and make that unique cell, you understand that
already
that cell
live.
has all of the DNA they will ever need for the creation of more cells and more cells until you become you.
But like, wouldn't it be a sin too? Because you're not married. What if you're not married with your baby daddy, and like, you know, you're having a kid, you're not even married, so that's a sin too.
Okay. So not being married
I have a
doesn't
question.
make abortion right. Abortion is the murder of because they're killing a child.
I have a question.
That being born.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you think they're not responsible enough to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Let me reword this.
Okay, so you're saying if the child is born into an irresponsible home, then it's better that they die.
No, what makes you think a couple who doesn't know how to stay responsible and get pregnant?
Okay, so
What makes you think
okay,
they
good
could
question.
take care of that
Hold that
child
thought.
responsibly?
Irresponsible parents. I'll get to that. Yes.
All right. Hypothetical. If somebody gets raped and gets pregnant.
Exactly. Wouldn't you want to get an abortion?
Great question. Okay, in terms of irresponsible.
All right, so you can see the way this is going to go the whole time. There's lots of questions coming in, and I'm in the middle of answering one when another comes in. I'm trying to kind of juggle all that. But this question of rape, it usually comes up right away. It usually comes up very early on. They think it's a for sure gotcha. It's a kind of no-win scenario for someone like me because I either have to betray my pro-life really abolitionist, ideas and say that abortion is okay in that situation, or I have to say that it's good for a woman who is raped, to have a child. Lots of good arguments against this. You might have seen, for example, Charlie Kirk will say, someone here in this crowd is a product of rape. Who are they? Can you tell? Well, of course not, because they're a human being. They look like anyone else. They're not born with an R on their forehead or something. You could take two pictures of a fetus in the womb, like in a sonogram. Which one is a product of rape? You can't tell. So yes, also rape or aborting a baby as a product of rape makes two victims instead of one, the woman and now the baby as well. Wouldn't it be better to reduce the victimization and allow this child who did nothing wrong to be born and to enjoy the life that they've already begun? But I want to make an argument that I didn't have time to and probably would never have had to in this particular encounter, just to put this out as a bit of a thought experiment, because I don't hear it said a lot. And it's pretty simple, which is that there's a logistical problem with the rape exception. Okay, think about it this way. Let's say a woman unfortunately has a terrible situation, and 6 weeks later she finds out that she's pregnant. Well, if there's a rape exception, then she needs to be able to prove that that is indeed what happened, that it's not just she's making up a story, right? How is she going to prove it? Well, you can only prove it pretty much at the time of, within a day or two, I think, right? So you need a police report, you need a medical examination. And so basically the rape exception forces every woman who is raped, who might eventually find out that she's pregnant, weeks from then probably, to do a kind of preventative measure of going to the police and making a report, with I think less than half of women, maybe far less than half of women do. You're now putting that burden on her in the event she's pregnant so that she can then justify a rape. Now, I think that no one would want to do that. No one would want to impose the demand that she prove that she was raped with invasive police and medical procedures. So they would just say, well, we'll just take her word for it. Well, we're right back where we started, where any woman can go into any abortion clinic and just say, I was raped. I mean, what are we going to hook them up to a lie detector? I mean, of course not. So same case, same with incest as well. Any way to prove it would be invasive, so they wouldn't demand evidence for it. And so we would just kind of be stuck with that. So I think that for those reasons, that it's really unfair to women who have just undergone a trauma, to force them to go through that in the event, in the rare case that she would actually be impregnated by that sad, tragic event, would just be too much. So it's a logistical issue as well as the other issues of really, most powerfully, I think, not making two victims out of the situation. But the issue of rape comes up all the time, and it comes up very early. They think it's a gotcha, even though fewer than 1% of abortions, I think, deal with the case of rape. So it's not a good issue anyway. Slice it.
Parents, if it's wrong to kill a child, it's wrong to kill a child. Would you say that if you have a child and it's born and it's 1 day old, do you have the right to kill that child?
No, I mean, if I already gave birth to it, then you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just messed up.
Okay, if we got to have a respectful conversation if this is going to achieve anything. Okay, so you're saying that a baby only gets rights when it's born.
You should not kill a baby if it's already 1 year old.
So you would say up to the point where a baby is like moving and everything in a way. When does a baby get rights?
Until it does not have a heartbeat. Okay, it's okay to.
So okay. So you can detect. So you can. Okay. So you're saying a heartbeat is when it gets human rights.
Yeah,
What? Okay.
I agree.
Okay. So a heartbeat can be detected about 6 weeks of pregnancy. So is that when you advocate for the protection of that baby?
Advocate for what protection?
6 weeks from conception is when they can start to detect a heartbeat with a sonogram.
Should be able to do whatever
they feel like.
All right, so this happens a lot. Well, we want some kind of proof of life, heartbeat. Okay, we'll go with a heartbeat. That sounds good. They're probably thinking that's pretty far along in the pregnancy. Well, I grant that at 6 weeks it's not a fully developed heart, but with a sonogram you can detect, beating, moving blood and so on and so forth in this fetus. And so, they don't know it's 6 weeks, so they realize that's bad. So all of a sudden they're recourse. So all of a sudden, yes, I agree with heartbeat. Oh wait, no, 6 weeks, no way, I can't go with that. Now it's like a woman can do anything they want. And that's a common thread in all this, right? Is that, basically you either are for women being able to do whatever they want or you put some limits on it. And, there's never a time in this conversation where any limits are drawn, where there's any consistency. And so I hopefully they're watching this and thinking about this and asking themselves, well, what are some limits that I might draw?
I know that's why I was advocating for slavery, because I think people can do what they should have the right to do whatever they want.
Okay, but how?
Slavery.
Are you doing what you want to do?
And they all ran away because they don't understand corollary.
No, because those are black people.
Right. You don't see. I'm making a point that you will advocate for the killing of a child, and when I say that's why slavery is okay, of course I don't think slavery is okay. I don't think killing is okay either. I already said that.
It's two different topics.
Yeah, those are.
Being born doesn't give you human rights.
Just to let y'all know, y'all being recorded.
Being born doesn't give you human rights.
A baby?
Right.
A baby?
No, you have them already. Yeah.
All right, so they really thought they got me here, because what I was saying is that being born doesn't give you human rights because you already have them by virtue of being a human, right? You have them already before you're born. They're saying something magical happens when you're born. See, it's always, heartbeat, brain activity, can feel pain when they're born. There's these magical, first semester, second trimester, third trimester, there's these magical times when this being gets rights. And my point was, no, it doesn't get rights when it's born because it already has them. They think they got me. They think I'm being inconsistent because I'm saying, well, it doesn't get rights when it's born. It must get rights after that. What I was saying is that, no, it gets rights before that.
Yes, you already have human rights by virtue of you being a human.
A baby up to 5 weeks starts growing its eyes.
That makes no
A baby up to 20 weeks starts growing
You're saying after birth or in the womb?
in the womb.
Oh, yeah.
Up to 20 weeks, it might start growing its brain. If you
No,
abort
you're wrong about that.
and Well, they might be. Well, I'm saying
Okay,
if you
okay.
abort a baby, which is the limit, you can only abort a baby before 20 weeks. If your baby has no heart, no brain,
Then I feel like
what's the point of having the baby?
yeah, like I
It's
don't
not
like.
a
Yeah, I
baby.
get your point. Like
It's
yeah, I
not
get your
humane.
point because it is a sin if you kill the baby.
Humane.
Like that is a sin. Because
Oh,
my
okay,
mom,
yeah.
my mom was literally telling me this morning. It was like it's funny.
Okay, here's
But,
here's the
like-
deal though. Any point that you say that a baby has value, or a human being has rights to live, at any point you say that, I'll just go back a day. I'll just say, oh, you say it's the heartbeat. What about the day before that? It's the same person. It's the same person
even if you,
with
but
the
look,
same
at the
same
end of
DNA.
the day, look at the
What-
end of
what-
the day,
yeah.
the woman whoever had the abortion lives with that with their whole life, so it shouldn't matter to anybody else.
Yes, and many
except that.
women regret their abortion.
Yeah,
which
like,
is why
I mean, that's
which is why
different.
legalize. Well,
And
yeah,
many-
yes,
I'm sure many women wish they
you
would've
but
gotten an
wait.
abortion.
But you're regretting an action doesn't make it right or wrong.
Exactly. But look, would you rather?
Okay, so that's not my point. I'm saying though that many women do regret their abortion. So legalizing it leaves women without recourse. How
This is an issue that I think the pro-life community, broadly speaking, needs to maybe communicate a little bit better. My point wasn't that again, what I was saying is that women regret it. And they said, well, a lot of people don't regret it, as if, like, if you don't regret something, then it must not be wrong and it must be right to do. Well, there are people who kill other people and they don't regret it. That doesn't mean it's right to kill people, right? So my point was whether you regret it or not doesn't make something right or wrong. It's right or wrong ultimately because God said so. But what was I saying? You know what? I'll have to come back to that thought. Here we go.
How many women are forced to get abortions?
Okay, I remembered. Okay. The law should be a backstop for women, right? The law should protect a woman who wants to protect the life of her own child. When abortion is legal, she doesn't even have that recourse. My point was that many women are forced into abortions by their parents, grandparents, boyfriend, husband, pimp, all sorts of people. So I think there's a huge number of the 1 million+ abortions or whatever it is every year now that are unwanted even by the woman, certainly as well by the father of the child, by the way. And yet women are forced into it and they're like, please, somebody protect me. Will the law protect me? No. Law lets you kill your own child. So you don't even have that as a backstop. So how is abortion good for women? When, they need a recourse, when they're being, pushed into situations that they don't want to go into, somebody should be speaking for them. Somebody should be advocating for them. And since that doesn't happen, I think that's not good for women. So in so many ways, abortion is, not good for women.
So it's gonna induce something like women doing other stuff to get abortions because it's not gonna stop abortion.
They're
at all.
gonna get it regardless.
It's just gonna make it more dangerous for women to have abortions, and it's gonna have women lose more lives.
Right. So
stuff like that. It's gonna be in someone's kitchen.
no,
or-
you're wrong.
Okay, real fast. There were lots of abortions before 1973. They were almost done, as I'll say, I kind of get cut off, in hospital or medical clinic situations. They were done by OBGYNs. They were illegal, but they were still, abortion only takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So they were done after hours. They weren't done in like super unsafe settings. The kind of coat hanger myth still lives on. Unfortunately, that's the kind of cliches that these children it's all they ever hear about abortion. That's just not how abortions took place. There were hundreds of thousands of abortions per year before 1973. And even after Dobbs, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of abortions, and there's going to be tens of thousands even in states like Texas that pretty much have laws totally against it, maybe with mephistoprone these days, which is actually probably less safe than abortions before 1973, illegally in a medical clinic. But this idea that we need it legal so that it can become safe is just, it's not true. They were, of course, abortion is never safe for the children who die at the hands of it, right? But even for the women, they were largely safe because they were performed by OBGYNs who believed in the cause of abortion, and they simply did it after hours or with no one looking. So there's a book that I interviewed the author for. I can't remember it, but I'll try to find that link and put it in the description.
You really need to study abortion before 1973, which is where the vast majority of abortions were done in
But
hospitals.
this is
Were done in
2025.
Yeah, we're in a whole new generation.
Not really. Not really.
And we really are because
Actually,
you should see
you know
more
what? You're
the-
right. Now we have 40 sonograms. Now we see babies smile. Now we see babies move away from the instruments that are taking their life. Have you ever seen an abortion?
Yeah, I have.
Yes.
You've watched the process. You watched a baby get cut up with scissors
Yes.
and vacuumed out. That didn't break your heart.
Yes, it does, and the feeling is
don't
not
care?
okay. It's not okay.
No, look, I fully
Do you
agree. I
remember when you
fully
were in the
not
room?
agree. I fully
That's
agree.
irrelevant. Are you saying people with no memory should be
I'm
killed?
saying that, like,
Are you saying people that have no memory have a right to be killed?
Do you know how many
are you
people?
saying that freaking slaves have a right to be treated that way?
Of course not. But you are. You are saying humans have the right to kill other people. You are defending the right of murderers.
Then I guess I am. Like, I'm gonna support it.
Raise your hand if it's okay to kill your child.
If it doesn't have a
Thank you.
heartbeat, if it
You're
doesn't-
literally proving my point.
I'm not raising my hand.
All right, that's probably the most heated it got. I mean, it gets heated another couple of times, but you can see why I take issue with this. I mean, we are literally talking about people who now just get to the point where it's like, yeah, parent can kill their child. That's what is going on. And I think, therefore, like, we have to stop lying to ourselves that this is kind of some rare occurrence in exceptional circumstances due to rape or, some horrible unforeseen thing. Like, there's just a darkness going on. There is a coldness of heart. Coldness doesn't even do justice to the word. So I finally just asked, and about 2/3 of the people there raised their hand. And so, you, the audience, you're the judge of this encounter. And it's pretty shocking that they just said, yeah. Now, I do think this is a bit of a turning point because I think over time there's going to be some regret about that. So you'll see some kind of try to back away from that or maybe think about it in a slightly different way as we proceed. But, yes, when they try to come at me, when they don't understand the corollary argument I'm making with slavery, so they keep trying to paint me as some like woman abuser, as you'll see, or defender of slavery. This kind of hit and run mentality drives me crazy. They throw something out that's totally spurious to my character, not understanding the arguments that are being made. And so at some point, I just have to lay the groundwork bare, if that metaphor makes sense. I just have to say, look, you are defending the killing of children. You don't have any moral authority in this conversation.
You know why?
Y'all are defending murder.
You know why I'm not raising my
And then
hands?
you're defending murder and you're
I didn't
indignant at
raise
me.
my hands.
If your
Listen,
12-year-old
listen.
daughter
I don't
got
think
raped
it's like
by
it's not. It's
Well,
not.
then you may not want to be friends with these people because they support child murder.
Look, listen.
No, I
I
didn't
don't
raise
think
my
it's
hand
like
because
it's
the
not a
baby
it's
wouldn't
not
be
a
my
nice thing
child.
to
It
do.
wouldn't
But
be
like,
human.
if the person isn't prepared to give, like, if she's not ready
Okay,
for that,
that
life,
was
I
the
think.
irresponsible parent question.
Yeah, then I agree with that.
So if someone's irresponsible and they have a child, can they maybe just flush it down the toilet or throw it in the dumpster?
No, that's even
Because
way.
it gets rights when it's born? Why? What is it because it's 9
I have a
months?
question.
Because it's actually living.
Do you get
What-
your birth
what does that mean?
certificate when you're in the
It's
womb?
outside the womb.
So if you don't have a birth
Okay, this is a remarkable exchange because what they're actually going to end up saying is that you don't get a birth certificate or a social security number until you're born. And like basically the government decides then whether you're a human being who's living. But the real key here is I said, what do you mean? Because there are certain words, you kind of learn to listen for. And she said, it's living. Once it's born, it's living. What does living mean? It was living in the womb. It was receiving oxygen. It was digesting food. It had brain activity. It could feel pain. Babies can smile. Babies respond to, playing classical music through headphones around the belly. Yeah, my son, my goodness, you should have seen, it looked like Alien, right? The shapes coming out of my wife's, belly. So they're moving. I mean, come on. I mean, who are we kidding? Of course it's living. It's living from the moment that one cell with sperm and egg become two cells. And that's the definition of life. It's reproducing. And from the moment of conception until the time of death, it's a living thing. It's a one cohesive, being. It's a living, cohesive, anyway. So, but they'll use this, they use words and language like this, like it's not living yet. Well, of course it's living, because it's not dead. You just don't think it's a life worthy of protection, which makes me, as you'll see, very sad.
So, did Jesus get a birth certificate?
We're talking
That
about
Did-
was
2025.
so long
Did
ago
Jesus-
before birth certificates.
How would you
were not
know?
even
You
a
were-
thing.
Birth
speaking
certificates don't give you
BC. You're
rights.
speaking BC. I'm speaking 2025. Do you have a birth certificate?
So you're saying if he doesn't have a birth certificate, he has no right to life?
Well, he has no
Well,
right
you're
to the
really not a
United
person
States.
if you don't have a birth certificate
Yeah.
or social security. You don't exist.
Really? You don't exist? If you don't have a social security number, you don't
in the
exist?
government if you don't have a social
So?
security or a
Everything
birth
about
So-
this country is about
so-
the government.
We all have
So,
opinions,
The
mister.
government,
You're gonna have your
the
opinion.
government doesn't give me
That's what
rights.
we're
God
arguing.
gives me
Exactly.
rights. That's
He's
what the
a male.
Constitution
You wouldn't
says.
get it. You're a male. You wouldn't get it,
That's what the
mister.
Constitution says.
How would you feel if you were
Like,
pregnant?
shit,
Look,
it's
it's on
the
your thing right here.
government. Like,
Matt cannot
okay,
get pregnant. How would you
God is good and
feel?
all that, okay, I admit that, but
Who is God?
I don't know, some guy in the sky.
Yeah. I mean, the disrespect here is amazing. Y'all really have a lot of growing up to do. So, I mean, y'all really need to think about. You really need to think about these questions like adults.
accept your opinion.
It's
Like,
okay.
I'm a respectful person. I will respect your opinion.
Well, yes.
But I don't agree with you.
I
Like,
expect
there's no way you could make me agree.
Y'all all raised your hand when I said, "Is it okay if a parent kills their children?"
I didn't
Because you
raise
think
my
that
hand. Because the
a baby
Okay, well,
isn't
why don't y'all
something
talk
as a
among each
child.
other? Well,
I
okay.
believe that if
Does
you
a parent have a right to kill their child?
No, but you think that a child is something that's like 6 weeks old.
Tell
in
me
your
when it gets
stomach.
rights.
I believe it gets
Once
raised
it's
when
born.
it has a heart and
What is
beating
what
heart.
a beating heart is at 6 weeks? I already said that.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think
so
up
you
until it's
agree
born.
that any abortion after 6 weeks of conception
I never
is
said
wrong.
that. I said before
You just did
the
say that.
heart. If it doesn't have a heart,
What is so magical about a heart?
the heart
What if-
is
what if-
really
what
not
if-
alive.
What if somebody's
without
heart
your heart and without your brain, you're not gonna be here.
is that the way you measure heart life? Is say
Would you
brain
be
activity?
alive without your heart
Yes,
and your brain?
Okay, so I asked what's so magical about a heart. I'm aware that hearts are needed to pump blood for someone to stay alive. I got that. The point though I'm trying to get at is that if you are going to go down this road of saying that a person has value when all of their organs are operating, well, that's not necessarily true. You can have someone who's in a coma or something, their brain is not fully operational. You can have people on various machines to keep them alive, maybe with the hopes that they can heal and come back, to be with us fully, and so on and so forth. There have been people who've been declared dead who came back to life. Not to mention biblical stories of resurrection or resuscitation. The point is that if you go down this road of saying that a human is worthy of life when all of their organs work optimally, then what happens when somebody, and this of course does happen in countries that have euthanasia programs, what happens when someone, oh boy, looks like you're getting early onset dementia? We have a solution for that. It's called euthanasia. Looks like you have a heart defect. You're probably going to die in 4 to 5 years. Why don't we start working on a plan to, end everything, right? So we don't measure life based on organ optimization. So that's kind of what I was trying to get at. It was a little bit clumsy. I'm trying to think on my feet here. But whenever someone's just making materialistic or naturalistic arguments about the function of the body, that's what, makes me nervous, because that's not the totality of human existence or human value, is whether our bodies work optimally or not, because we are bodies and souls, and that should be considered as well.
That's your heart,
You
you're
go-
dead.
Okay, you're speaking in terms of just in terms of heartbeats or brain activity, right? What about someone who's in a car wreck and they have no brain activity?
Well, what if someone is in a car wreck and have no brain activity? And
What about
they're
someone in a
they've been
coma?
there for years. Are you gonna pull the plug because they have no say? They're already in. Then they'll come up for
Well,
years.
at some point you
Are
have
you
a
gonna
you,
pull the
you
plug?
may have a difficult ethical decision to make
Exactly,
about when
it's
you
a
pull a
difficult
plug.
ethical decision to have an abortion.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it
What has
is.
that-
Why?
Because
There's a lot of
There's
Why?
no-
Is there something wrong with abortion?
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
there is, but
according
there's
to
Oh, it's wrong now.
According to
Oh,
some
okay.
people.
Okay, this is worth pausing on a little bit, because they were giving examples of ethical dilemmas of when to pull life support systems from someone when they're dying, which is a unique case in every situation. And there are times to pull a plug and there are times not to. It just kind of depends on certain situations. So they're trying to then say, well, abortion is like that. It's an ethical dilemma. Well, earlier you were saying you could abort a baby up to 9 months without any ethical consideration at all. So, my point was, well, why does it need to be rare in the safe, legal, and rare category if there's nothing wrong with it? Why not promote it heavily? Which, of course, now they kind of do. So I think this is a pretty clear evidence that they keep kind of trying to figure out ways to justify it, and they say, but they kind of pull it back, and then they say, well, maybe we don't do it that often. So I say, why? Of course, I don't believe what I said. I was proving, the point. I said, why is it wrong, or something like that. So anyway, that was an interesting exchange.
On other people's
Look,
opinions
look.
is wrong. Only for male. I feel like it's wrong for male.
Male manipulator. I think abortion is wrong because
I'm a gaslighter.
You're a manipulator.
No. It's called rhetoric, okay? It's called asking questions because you don't understand the
What has
inconsistency
other
of your
people
own.
said to you
Let me
about
finish
it?
the sentence, please. You don't understand the inconsistency of your
Isn't
own.
also the
Can I
Bible
finish my sentence?
You interrupt people too.
You do not understand the inconsistency of your own positions.
But the Bible is also inconsistent, and if you're going off something for more,
What is the Bible inconsistent on? I'd love to know. Are you a Bible?
About this conversation.
The Bible, it says like, okay, well, you're being morally inconsistent. You believe in the Bible, correct? You're judging people. It's not your place to judge people.
Where does it say that? Where does?
All right, so I got really heated there because I could not get a sentence done, and it's extremely frustrating when you're trying to make a point, and you'll see this again over and over, where before I'm even done with my point, they already have an argument, which means they're not listening. They're not in a posture of learning. There's no curiosity going on about their point of view. I mean, I'll ask questions, and then I want to hear what their answer is. Maybe, and there is some interrupting going on because, I'm trying to get to points, because understand, I'm at their mercy. I mean, they can walk away at any moment. I'm sitting there, they honor me, in a way by coming and talking to me, but they could leave at any moment, and they do end up kind of leaving unexpectedly, here in a little bit. But the judgment thing is going to come up a lot. And so eventually we're going to read from Matthew 7, and I think I proved my case there. But the long story short, the bigger picture here is that you'll notice that they are accusing me over and over again of standing in a place of judgment, and I'm making distinctions. I'm not judging anyone ultimately. God has the right to judge ultimately, but I do have points of view because I think I'm reflecting God's truth. They have points of view as well. They have an ultimate standard. They have ultimate truths that they're abiding by. And so, we're all making judgments. The question is, by what authority are we judging, and whether, what are the right judgments? And hopefully my point is that I am pointing out their inconsistencies in such a way that not in that moment, but maybe later in the day, or maybe if they watch this video, they'll rethink some of their points of view, that their heart will be broken for the unborn, that they'll come to understand that they need to live by God's reign and by God's rule and come to love God's law. So that's kind of what you're going for. You're just kind of planting seeds in these kinds of encounters. But judgment's going to come up a lot. I won't say anything more about it as it comes up.
Does it say we can't judge?
It's God's place to judge people.
Am I judging someone to heven or hell? Have I done that in this conversation? Have I done that in this conversation? Judging the heaven or hell?
The majority of us.
No, we never said heaven or hell. We said
You're judging me. You're sitting here judging me.
How are we judging
You're a
you?
hypocrite.
I'm a hypocrite.
Yes.
I have a different
Yes,
opinion.
I admit.
Okay, it is kind of funny that when I called one of the students a hypocrite, which is clearly not because I disagree with her. My point is, as I've said, they're all standing in judgment of me. They have the lowest opinion of me. They're literally accusing me. At one point, they're going to accuse me of being a horrible husband, of defending the slave trade, and going against my own Christian principles by judging them. And those are the judgments they're making against me. So they don't understand the hypocrisy of their point of view. So I pointed out. And they're yelling at me. I mean, there's vitriol going. So I'm not gonna back down, because, as I said to start this video, I'm going to defend God, in this. It's not about me and my character. It's about defending God and the truth of God. So that's why it got that's why it got really heated there. Anyway, but it was funny, like, the nice young lady who does come back, and she's very sweet, but that's when she gets up, because, like, I can't even be sitting next to this guy,
I am making judgments about what you believe, and you're doing the same.
Go back. So me having a different opinion.
No, that is not what makes you a hypocrite. What makes
What you just said.
No, I'm saying you are saying I'm a bad person because I am making
When
judgments.
did that come out of my mouth? When did I say you are a bad person?
She did. She said it's wrong to make judgments, and yet I'm doing it.
No, I said God said it's wrong to make judgments.
No, God
It's in
said
the
no.
Bible.
If you please read Matthew 7. What Jesus says is he says, judge as you are going to be judged. Good talking to you.
Are you married? Do you have a
Yes,
wife? How
yes.
does she feel about this?
She agrees with everything. Not that that means anything, not that that matters.
Is it
Your wife said it doesn't matter to you?
you put your
Okay, real fast. What she said was, "Oh, so it doesn't matter what your wife says." That wasn't my point. Of course, it matters to me what my wife thinks. What my wife thinks. My point was something is not true based on what someone thinks about it. What we're aiming for here is truth, objective truth, ultimate truth. You know, what is real, what is true, what is good, what is beautiful. That's what we're endeavoring, that's what life is about, right? And so my point was, they were saying, you know, because for them, like, truth is consensus. So for them, they want to know, do people agree with you about this? Does your wife agree with you? How does she live with you? You must hate women, sort of thing, right? And so my point is, well, that's not really important. It's not, it's important in our relationship that my wife and I agree on important things, but it's not important in the sense of pursuing the truth, because we could agree on something that is false. So that was the point I was making, and then they try to kind of use it against me to besmirch my characters. That was what that was.
Not what I said.
Your opinions onto her, or do you let her speak on her own?
What, you think my wife is in a closet being abused or something? Of course, my wife has her own opinion. You want me to go get her? She runs my
I
school.
have an off-topic question.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Marriage is wrong.
No, marriage is male and
Can
female.
we have your wife's opinion
Oh,
on
marriage
this?
is male and female. So
No,
Since my wife is the mother of my 2 children, I can assure you she's not for abortion.
Well,
excuse me. I was saying,
if
if a gay woman or a gay man went into your church, you wouldn't accept them. That's a question.
Really?
That's a question.
What is the question? Would I accept them? Accept them in what way?
Would you accept them in your church?
In my church?
Yes.
Like they walked in my building?
Yes.
Or like welcome them as members or what?
Welcome them as members.
Yes, I have done that.
So then, why do you have marriages male and female? Are you against female and male and male?
So marriage is between men and women. Men cannot marry men and women cannot marry women.
Why do you believe that's wrong?
Because the Bible says so. Because God made them male and female. Matthew 19. Matthew 19.
Not everybody believes in like glorification. Like, you're a preacher, right?
Yes.
That's basically, that would be a sin.
Matthew 19?
Preaching is a sin? That would be news to Paul in the book of Acts.
Exactly.
Yeah, or
that's a
Jesus.
contradicting statement. So, you know, to say that
Matthew
something shouldn't
19.
be and to tie it back to the Bible.
Do you have your Bible on you?
I have it on my phone.
Could you show me Matthew 19, please?
Please read Matthew 19 from your phone.
Okay, Jesus is asked about divorce in Matthew 19, and he quotes Genesis 2. You think I'm going to misquote it?
No, I just want to read it for myself.
Okay.
Actually, I have the Bible on my phone as
It's
well.
not allowed. It's not saying anywhere in here.
I have it on my phone as
Well,
well.
it's slow. Sorry.
So, my poor child.
I think my internet's not working well because it's not pulling it up. Jesus is asked about divorce, and what he says is, in the beginning, have you not read that in the beginning God made them male and female? And that what God puts asunder, no man. Yeah, so that's what marriage is. Marriage is between a man
Question:
and a
Are you
woman.
homophobic?
Yes. Hey, Mr. What's your YouTube?
Do I have an irrational fear of gay people? No, I do not. That's what homophobic means.
Mhm.
Did you mean something else by it?
Like gay people?
Yes.
No, I do not dislike gay
You
people.
would know that that's not the real meaning of
Oh, what is the
homophobia.
real meaning of
The
it?
real meaning of homophobia is the disliking of gay people.
Yeah.
That's what homophobia
No, I
means. You as an adult,
I love gay people, and I love them so much I want to speak to them the truth.
Okay, then speak to me the truth. I'm a gay person.
Okay.
Speak to me your truth.
God, okay.
What's your truth?
My-
How do you feel about me?
I already said it. Marriage is between a male and a female.
Okay, what is marriage to you?
Well, marriage can only be described. It cannot be defined. It's a cultural institution. It's biblically defined. Marriage is the lifelong union of a man and a woman for the purpose of creating a family. Did you hear what I said, or were you asking?
I'm listening
were you
to
thinking? Did you listen to what I said, or
I'm
while I
listening
was
to what
speaking,
you
were you
said.
thinking about what the next question is going to be?
No,
Because
I
before I
didn't
even
think- I
finished the
listened to that, but
definition,
it's just-
you
I
already
wanna
had something
know.
else to say.
What does marriage have to do with the exact well-being of our
Well,
life
marriage
right
is
now?
marriage is the bedrock of civilization.
Could I walk? Could I get up
See,
and keep
once
walking
again-
and be healthy? Can I
once-
go be a
So this is going to happen a lot where there's a lot of interruption and, you know, moving on before a thought is finished. But, you know, I just do kind of want to highlight this point. Marriage is the foundation of civilization. You know, we have self-government, and then we have government to the family and government, you know, beyond in our churches and our communities and so on and so forth. But, you know, the bearing fruit and multiplying and having dominion, it all begins with a family. It all begins with marriage. Males, females make children. That's kind of how this whole human thing continues. It's so obvious that that's the case that it shouldn't need to be said, but I just kind of wanted to say again that, you know, he's going to go on and say, well, you can do other good things without being married. Yeah, that's not my point. My point is that ultimate goods, you know, civilization itself rely ultimately on a strong defense of marriage.
billionaire without being married? Does marriage have anything
Is
to do
is Elon Musk
with
married?
my wealth? It doesn't matter. He wasn't. Do you know how much wives he's had? Do you know how much kids he has? Do you know how much wives he has right now? And he's the richest man on earth.
I don't
And
think
he's
he has
a
any.
major sinner. So
Yeah, I'm not advocating for
Elon
Elon Musk. You asked a rhetorical question of whether or not someone could be a billionaire if they were married.
But what
Wasn't
I'm
that your
saying
question?
is marriage does not have anything to do with our well-being at all. So for you to be like, oh, gay should not happen because marriage, that's not at all.
Okay, well, you're
that does not
you're
tie-
totally wrong. Marriage
That's
is
totally right.
Can I say something?
You can have a baby, you can live your life without being married. Marriage does not have.
Yes, you can live your life without being married. What does that have to do with anything?
Exactly. What does marriage have to do with anything?
Marriage is God's plan for men and women. If you reject that, that's your.
Do you know how
that's
much
your case.
plans God has for us? Do you know we don't follow God's
Do I know
plans?
the mind of
You're not
God?
supposed to even have on clothes right now,
Really?
according to the Bible.
Really?
Yeah, you're not
What-
supposed to have
what-
a haircut.
what-
You're not supposed to alter your appearance. Your
Oh,
appearance is
y'all
completely
believe in
altered.
Levitical law?
No. I'm just telling you what the Bible says.
All right, so there's this bizarre thing going on about how I'm not supposed to wear clothes or trim my beard or something. I think that they are hearkening to Leviticus. That's why I said Levitical law, right? Because I think they're thinking about how you're not supposed to cut the, as I'll say later, sideburns off your hair or something, or maybe they're thinking about the Nazarene deal where Samson didn't cut his hair, or they're thinking about mixed fabrics in Jewish law or something. I think there's some vague thing about weird biblical laws, and they're, used classically to sort of trap me in this situation. Not understanding that if they're going to argue for the rightness and propriety of Levitical law, then it's a death penalty for those who engage in homosexual acts, right? So, if we want to have an interesting conversation about continuity of Old Testament law and which ones continue and which ones don't, that'd be great. We obviously are never going to be able to have that kind of a depth in this environment, but it's just a weird argument that they're bringing up. I think that's what they mean, but since they can never cite chapter and verse, the argument totally falls flat.
Do you? Oh,
Your appearance is very altered. Your hair is cut. Your beard is trimmed.
see, there's
That
no respect.
sins
There's
in the
no
Bible.
respect. There's no respect.
You have on shades.
There's no
you have on
respect.
shoes. You're on a computer. This is all sins in the Bible. If you're just tying right back to what the Bible says, all of this is sinful.
Bro,
It's all
you're
sinful.
preaching, and you make
I
no
know.
sense.
No, I know. I know I'm preaching because I'm just saying, but it's like you have to be less insensitive. You as a preacher.
My point in saying that he was preaching is that what I'm being accused of in this whole encounter is that I am sort of forcing my beliefs on other people, or I'm standing in judgment of other people. That's kind of what a preacher does. So my point was, you have believed a worldview. You're now sharing that worldview. You're now saying that it's a sin to use a computer or wear clothes. So, my point was to say, hey, if we're all preaching here, we're all preaching, but make no mistake, you don't get to say that I'm sitting here preaching in judgment of other people while you're on some neutral territory without any, where you get to just determine what is right or wrong for everyone else. So,
If you want people to follow you, you have to, kind of mediate with the people. You have to relate.
I have
to
an
the
audience
people.
of one, sir. That is God, not you.
So
Not
how
you.
Are
None
preaching?
of you.
So who are you preaching to?
I'm preaching to
God?
myself.
So what is your point of having a big church?
this is interesting because it kind of encapsulates the sort of difference in how the kind of worldly think about things from hopefully how the Christian thinks about things. The worldly is all about amassing other people to validate what they think. There's sort of strength and safety in numbers. It's not how Christians think. Christians seek to please God above all else. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. And so you can see they're kind of perplexed that I'm not trying to endear myself to them. I'm not trying to sell Christianity to them. I am stating facts that they might find quite objectionable because I'm honoring the truth of God. And it kind of seems like they've never quite encountered that before and they don't really know what to do with it. And I hope that's the case because I want to challenge. I want to put not just pebbles, as Greg Kokel might say, but I want to put some pretty big rocks in their shoes. I want them to be uncomfortable with the worldview conclusions that they end up coming to, like killing children, for example. And so anyway, they just can't fathom that I'm not trying to be attractive to them, that I'm not trying to, attract the biggest crowd possible. And so it just is a good highlight to how fundamentally differently, is that grammatically correct? Anyway, how differently we do, in fact, see the world.
Preaching to you have members of a church. What is your point?
Oh, you think
You're
I want
preaching to your church. You're not preaching to God.
You don't want to
You
learn.
make them
You
pay
don't want to learn.
No,
You don't
I'm
want to
just
listen.
saying you're saying stuff
You
that
don't
doesn't
want to
make
listen.
sense,
You don't
and
want to
You just want to
listen.
be God, so it makes sense. Just because you say something stupid and say God or the Bible, it does not make sense. You know, you have to use your adult brain, and you have to dwell. You have to
Thank
put that
you.
stuff together.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
Someone here is smart enough to see the disrespect, and they're smart enough to say,
You
I don't want to have any part of
to
that.
see the disrespect that you have bestowed
You
upon
said
us,
it's a sin for me to
children.
cut my hair. Can we go back to that?
It's altering your appearance, isn't it? That's a sin in the Bible.
What verse is that?
I don't know this verse. I don't care about this.
Is it in Leviticus? Is that in this?
You would know because you read the Bible, didn't you?
So are you talking about like the Jewish custom of not cutting the curls in your hair?
Not just that. You're not supposed to alter your appearance. That's something that's stated in the Bible. You're not supposed to alter your appearance.
Okay, so unless you
You're
can give me
supposed to look how God
a chapter and verse on that, I don't have to listen to you. Okay, please listen to me. Does anyone else?
As a preacher, you should know this. You know, you should have.
Right. So every Christian who gets a haircut is sinning.
But no, that's what I'm saying. You know, we don't have to follow every exact aspect of the Christian Bible to still be following, like to still be a Christian.
Right. So what do you have to follow?
You're not following every aspect of the Christian Bible.
Really? My shorts and t-shirt are not as.
I never said that.
He's pointing. He
I'm
said my clothes.
The alterance of your appearance.
In what way have I altered my appearance?
For you to sit out here and even try to change and be negative on how we feel us, and judge us. That's a sin in the Bible. You know, for you to even be judgeful,
false.
That is not false.
What is the
that's
verse?
Something.
What is the verse?
You keep asking me the verses.
Somebody find Matthew 7:1-3.
You never told us the verse about marriage being wrong between male and male.
Because it never says that. It says that pedophilia is
now,
wrong.
when Jesus had finished these things, he went away from Galilee. I'm reading from Matthew 19.
Okay.
Read it.
I will read Matthew 19. Now, when Jesus had finished these sayings, he went away from Galilee and entered the region of Judea beyond the Jordan. And large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. And Pharisees came up and tested him by asking, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? He answered, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh.
So, but that doesn't mean that male and male can't be together, or male and male can't be together.
Because you know how much stuff that humans do in between our lives besides going off and having a wife and having a kid. You know how much stuff we do.
Did Jesus get married and have kids?
Just listen, because you keep making me listen to you. Listen to me. Even if that's what you're going off of,
You're not helping your cause,
but
bro.
I'm just saying.
You're not helping your cause.
If that's what you're going off of, that you're supposed to end your life with a wife and a kid, that's how you're supposed to end off.
So I asked it quickly and it got no response. But I asked if Jesus got married and had kids, because I am talking about sort of a normal thing. Like the normal course of life is that men and women get married and God says that's good, and we have children and we have dominion and steward, fruitful and multiply and all of that. That's the normal thing. That's not a law. It's not what always happens. Sometimes couples can't have children. Sometimes people like Paul or Jesus. Paul may have been married earlier, but regardless, Jesus had a pretty fruitful life, and he was never married. Sorry, Dan Brown, he wasn't. So my point was, I'm not saying that the only way you can have a productive, good life is if you're married and have children. What I'm saying is that when there is such a thing as marriage, as you see on my sign, marriage is between a man and a woman. That's how it's defined. So he kind of keeps moving the goalpost to say, well, you can have a productive life without marriage. Never said you couldn't. That's not the argument. I'm not even saying it's like a moral obligation to marry per se, although it might be wrong in certain circumstances to avoid marriage if you're doing so for selfish reasons or something like that. Anyway, it was kind of that's why I was asking about Jesus, because I'm saying there can be a good life without marriage, but we obviously didn't have time to dwell on that.
Do you know how long you live? Do you know how much stuff is done before you get married to a wife? Like, are you like that? Doesn't you don't have
well,
to
in my case, it was 26 years, and I'm well aware of everything I did. I don't understand your point. It's the Lord's church.
Do you go here? Are you
Yes.
preacher?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So I heard you say about slavery. You said you believe everybody has their own choice, right?
No,
So
that's what they said.
Oh,
They
so
said
what
they
did you
said
say?
they believe in child sacrifice.
Okay, no.
How?
I'm
What
asking
is
you
child
about the slavery.
sacrifice?
Child sacrifice
Abortion.
is abortion.
No, I'm
That's
asking you
a-
about the slavery thing.
Right. It's a you understand
said
it's a
abortion is
it's a
child
rhetorical
sacrifice.
point, right? You understand that I'm not Can I finish what I'm saying? Do you understand that I'm simply applying the logic of someone saying they have a right to kill a child? So if I took that logic and applied it to slavery, I could then say I have a right to own a person. Because actually owning a person is not even as bad as killing them, right?
You know, own an adult person.
Now, of course, I think both are wrong, but if you say that slavery is wrong but abortion is right, you are morally inconsistent.
Okay,
And
but you
inconsistent.
have to-
I'm not talking to you. And you're inconsistent to the Word of God.
All right, so that got audible gasp because I told him I wasn't talking to him because I wasn't. Now, maybe you think that's rude, and I'm going to comment farm here, right? You can leave it in the comments if you think that was rude or not. If it was, I apologize, but I give as good as I get. Here's the dynamic that you don't see on the other side of the camera. This was a young lady, a young black lady, student, who left earlier when I had made a rhetorical comment about slavery, how I thought it was okay, of course, using their logic against them, not actually believing that, but when people say, I think anyone can do whatever they want with their own body, or they can do whatever they want, then I'll say, well, that's why I think slavery is okay, because I'm doing what I want. Yes, it's to another person, but so is abortion, right? So when I said that, she walked away. Then like 10 minutes, she crosses the street back to come around, and now she's asking this question about slavery again. And so I really wanted to explain it to her. And so when I'm not even done with my second sentence of explaining this, he jumps in my ear again. And it's like, look, I can't talk to 5 people at once. I'm trying to honor this person who has a sincere question, is showing respect, was clearly offended at what I said, maybe thought about it and wanted to really know what was going on, comes back, and I'm trying to focus on her. And so, but the gasps that I got when I said, I'm not talking to you, were, as you just heard, it was kind of fun in a way, but what I'm hoping for are good conversations. And, I'm just not going to sit there and, I'm just not going to sit there and not be able to make my points. Even if these are high school students, like, they still need to learn to show respect enough to have a conversation where someone can finish a sentence.
This is a group conversation.
Yes, yes,
them, you're talking
but
to
I
all of
can't
us.
even finish my point to her without
Because
you
you're not
speaking.
making any points. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
You know what? Let's let the audience decide who's making
This
the
is your
points.
audience. They're
Can I
gonna
please
tell you.
can I please read the verse about judgment now? My friend.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I want to come back to this. But she said, what is the verse about judgment?
Okay.
Because people have kept telling me that I'm wrong for judging, that it's a sin to judge. This is what actually does Jesus have authority, by the way?
I don't know. You
Okay,
would know.
so
You're a
it really doesn't
You're
matter what
teaching
Jesus
me.
says.
You're the preacher.
Okay,
I don't know why you
Jesus
keep
has
asking
ultimate
me
authority
questions.
because he's God. Okay.
I'm telling you what I know.
Jesus says, judge not that you be not judged, for with the judgment you pronounce you will be judged, and with the measure you use it will be measured. So in other words, he literally says, with the judgment that you judge. So it is acceptable to judge. However, the way that you judge other people is how you will be judged.
Okay.
Did I judge anyone to heaven or hell today? No, I did not. Do I have the right to say that the murder of children is wrong?
But
Yes.
you are judging, saying that.
I can't talk to both of you at once. Say that again. I can't talk to you both at once.
Like, you are saying that you're not judging anybody, but
I'm making judgments. I'm not judging them to
The
hell.
only judgment
You are
is
making
not
judgments.
hell and heaven.
You are all making judgments of me.
Hell and
So
heaven
why is it wrong?
not the
Why is
only
it wrong?
judgment.
Why is it wrong when I do it, but it's okay when you do it?
because it's your beliefs. I'm going off.
Okay.
What you say, this is you're in
Yes,
front of the church
the Bible
preaching this
is
does.
true. You are judging people,
Yes.
whether or not you're saying you're going to go to
I
hell.
am making
This
judgments.
is your belief. You're saying because you don't believe that.
Does God
abortion
have-
is
does
wrong,
God have a right?
You are going to hell.
Does God have a right?
Is he on earth?
Does God have a right
Is
to
he
say,
on earth?
oh, so only someone on earth has a right to judge?
He don't even have a right to speak. He's not here. Tell him to come down from that cross right now.
Wow, that's some serious blasphemy.
Okay, as I said earlier, if you can stay through the end of that whole section, that's the blasphemy I'm talking about. She literally says, God isn't here, so he doesn't have any say in things, and tell Jesus to come down from that cross. I mean, that is what they said at Calvary, right? That is what the enemies of Jesus, the people crucifying him, said. If he really is God, he can come down from that cross. and prove his authority. So really, there's no understanding of the sacrifice of Christ, of the need for forgiveness of sins. There's no understanding of the gospel at all. So maybe this is one step toward getting her to, sometimes you have to, I think, kind of flesh out the darkness of heart before someone really can't deny it anymore. And so these, I think, exchanges can be helpful in that manner. Is it pleasant? No. Do we all leave shaking hands happy? No. A lot of the time I have disagreeable conversations where we do leave shaking hands and we agree to disagree, but this isn't one of those situations. This is a situation where the conversation was really quite dark, so dark that people raised their hand and said, a parent has a right to kill their own child, and by the end, this person is saying, tell Jesus to come off the cross. So that's blasphemy. And, I'm going to call that out what it is. Hopefully another day I'll be sitting out there and she can come back and we can have another conversation and there can be some reflection. Now the conversation takes a bit of a turn because some of the students come back briefly, and then my first video ever for this, the Sidewalk Evangelism, Bella comes back and she says something very interesting about abortion. I think I'm going to pretty much let the video go from here. We're almost done. Here we go.
What do you think about it?
I'm actually quite sad.
Why?
I'm very sad
Do you
that
think we're really uneducated?
No, you're educated, but you do not have a defense of human life. You do not love human beings. I mean, the only thing that is required to end abortion is for people to love children. I don't know why you don't love children. I don't know why you don't want them to flourish.
No, we very much do love children.
It's just a lot of people.
But you defend the right to be.
It's not the right time. It's not the right place. It's not the right person.
It's never the right time.
It's so.
Okay. What is the income level that a couple needs to have before they can have a child?
A lot.
I don't know.
They gotta have the house.
How much?
At least 100, or no, maybe 100,000.
100,000?
It doesn't matter about the money as long as you're able to pay.
No, it does matter about the money.
So like, let's say in Africa right now, let's say in some tribe in Africa right now, like there's people living in a mud hut.
Economy, they're not.
Why are they leaving?
I was your first one on here,
Bella.
Oh yes.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, real fast. Their teacher was literally yelling at them across the street like, hey, come here. That's what that yelling was. That's why they left immediately. My point, look, I'm not trying to make fun of people, by the way, that live in mud huts. I'm certain my ancestors going back at some point lived in mud huts. The point is that if you can defend the having of children when conditions are good enough, then none of us would be here, right? Because a lot of us, a lot of our ancestors were born in very suboptimal. I mean, they didn't have air conditioning until like 100 years ago. So, that's pretty suboptimal, right? So anyway, that's a whole other conversation we didn't have time for. But that's why I was asking, well, what's the amount? What is the amount of income before you can have children? And she said $100,000. I mean, the median income, in America is something like $55,000. Now two working people, you get over that $100,000 mark, but then you're spending a lot of money on, daycare, which is like $1,500, $2,000 per kid. So that money goes pretty quick. Do you see what I'm saying? I think that should be obvious. But anyway, here's Bella, very sweet Bella. Listen to her story about her own abortion, which she gave me permission to share.
Yeah. Well, good to see you again.
I know, good to see you.
Yeah.
How are you?
You making some YouTube stuff?
Yeah.
Do you want to do it? Do you want to do round two?
Yeah, let's do round two.
Okay. Well, have a seat.
All right.
I don't know what was on, but I'm not really like into anything especially about
Yeah.
anything, but what he was saying was really like relevant to me. I don't know. It really didn't make any sense, but that's like really like uninteresting.
I could tell you were listening.
Yeah.
So,
But that was-
I appreciate you. Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Thank you.
What happened?
Oh, it was a whole gang of them. It was about
I know
15 of them.
Yeah, my
So-
fiance and I pulled up, and I was like, I thought it was a good thing. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lion. I'm so proud of him. And then I hear it, and I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, well, look. Anyway, I could go on for a long time, but the point is that if someone's going to be hostile, I'm going to give it back.
Right.
Because I'm fighting for the saving of life. I mean, all those people, or some of them are probably sexually active. They may be pregnant soon, and I want them to not put to death their own child. I'm trying to change their minds and soften their heart
Well,
so that they can save a life.
One thing, like my mom,
well, it's probably illegal if I say this, but my mom forced me to have an abortion at a young age.
Wow.
So
Are you okay with this being recorded?
that's fine, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm like heavily against it because I understand what it takes to do it, and I feel like a lot of people who are pro, they don't really understand what a woman goes through when they actually get it done, and like the repercussions of your actions afterwards. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So, like, one of the things, for example, that I said is a lot of women regret their abortion,
Yeah.
which was just a point, it's just a small point, but it's an
right,
important
but it's
point.
a point. I mean,
And they said, well, but a lot of women don't. In other words, like, well, if you don't regret it, then it's okay.
yeah,
Which is like,
I met a lot of women
Yeah.
there that was like their third or fourth time going.
Yeah.
And
but
I just didn't
like not
understand.
regretting an action doesn't make it right.
Right,
Like that's
right.
what that's how sociopaths think. Right?
Exactly, yeah. But
So- Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
fun. I mean, you know what I know that this is like guerrilla warfare.
yeah,
You know, this is going to be a you know, I mean, I might sit out here for hours and hours, and then all of a sudden they come, and I've got a few minutes to like try to make some points to get them to think. So,
right.
but anyway, but how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I have to go across the street later, but yeah, my fiance was sending me these videos about the whole holy fire that went on for Easter in Jerusalem or something.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, and apparently where Jesus was resurrected, a fire happens every year there, like,
Okay.
and it doesn't burn you. And there's like a whole video of it on YouTube. Anyways, we sent
Interesting.
it in our group chat, and my brother's like, "You guys are nuts and gullible. Come back to reality." He said, "I'll just be the mean lesbian of the family. I don't care."
Oh
But,
yes, this
yeah.
is your brother who.
Yeah.
Yes, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there are certainly religious claims that I definitely reject. Okay, like
Yeah.
the claims of the miraculous. There's an old book by a guy called B.B. Warfield who wrote a book called Counterfeit Miracles,
Okay.
and it's a kind of a study of various miraculous claims.
Mhm.
Like, for example, in France, in the city called Lourdes, there's like an apparition of Mary there, it's believed, and so people go there to try to be healed. There's like
Okay.
a grotto, I think, or something, and people go and they think they can be healed. But if you actually study the data, there are more sort of unexplained miraculous healings from people on average
Mhm.
that don't go to Lourdes than
Mhm.
people who do go
They
to
do,
Lourdes.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know about the Jerusalem fire. I'd have to look into
Yeah,
that.
I just watched
I
the
believe
video
in miracles,
today.
of course,
Yeah.
because I believe in God and God is.
Mhm.
But the normal course of events
Mhm.
for believers is to trust in the Word of God, is to the Word proclaimed through the Scriptures. That is the normal way that people come to faith in Christ and proclaim Him as Lord, and that is how one is saved. So, you know.
Got it.
So have y'all found a church yet, if you don't mind my asking?
No, we haven't.
Because
still haven't.
I've been looking for you on Sundays.
I know. I told him. He
Yeah.
was like, we recently, or yesterday actually, no, Sunday, we woke up early to go see his father, who's an addict and was supposed to be doing well, and he's actually not. So he was like, you know what, if we can wake up early for my dad, then we can wake up early for here. So we're going to go this Sunday for sure. We'll be here
Okay.
Sunday.
It's
so.
11 o'clock. I mean,
Yeah, it's not that early,
it's
right?
not that early.
Yeah, come on. So,
I mean, my son played baseball this week, so they had to go to church at 9:30 at another church, so they could go to church before they had to get to the ballpark. You know, so it can be done.
yeah,
You know.
for sure.
So
But yeah, I saw the line. I was like, oh wait, maybe it's like a good thing. But yeah, it's alright.
well, the way it works is that there's often a lot of hostility. And my point is that I'm never going to back down for defending Christ.
Right.
So you know, you know, but often what I found is there's someone listening off to the side.
Yeah.
They're observing it and they're being quiet. That's actually my audience. It's actually often not the people I've talked to.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a story. I had a young lady, a very similar encounter several years ago. We were talking about abortion. She made all the same arguments about, well, what about rape? What about people who are poor and they can't have kids? What about all these kind of unusual circumstances? Or just the fact that I don't want a kid, so I have a right to kill it, right?
Yeah.
And she called me, you know, an a-hole and all this kind of. But by the end of the conversation, she said, "I'm sorry for what I said," and you know, I'm hopeful that
Right.
she thought about that conversation, that she, you know, questioned what all of her teachers tell her,
Yeah.
you know, because they support everything that they're believing in.
Right.
So, you know, the point is though that they won't respect anything less than certainty. So that's kind of how I approach it, you know, where it's like I'm going to be really honest with what I think. I'm not going to back down because I'm not going to dishonor God, you know. And that's why I said to one guy, I said I have an audience of one, and that's God. Like my anyway, I'm not going to rehash the thing, but that's kind of how it went down. So,
Yeah,
you know.
my fiance, he was saying how, like,
Is he
you know,
here?
yeah, he's in the car actually. Yeah.
Well, he should come say hello.
I know. I'm gonna tell him. He was saying that, you know, it's our job to still, like, you know, try and tell my family about God and try to bring them to the church, even if my brother doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Like, it's still our job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really tough position, and it's kind of a classic position these days where it's like choose between family or God. I mean, it's an unfair predicament for them to put you in, and you shouldn't be put in it. And that just kind of goes to show, like, here's the thing, like, there are times where you have to choose between something in the world and God.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter says, I think in Acts 5, you know, obey God rather than men. So ultimately, we're going to obey God.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, we would all believe in God, and we could honor God together, and there would be harmony before us.
All right, well, that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed this. Check us out if you're in Houston and you're looking for a church home, or maybe you want to get involved in this kind of evangelism. Let me know. flhouston.org is the church website. Pastor at flhouston.org is my email. But thanks for watching. You know, you never know who will stop by. There have been a lot of conversations that I've had, you know, that aren't recorded because, you know, they don't want to be recorded. So I'm totally up to the someone willing to talk to me on camera, you know, for these sort of content to get made. I can't force the issue, but hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully it's helpful. Kind of gives you a sense of what young people are thinking out there these days, right? So, you know, pray for them that they would come to know the fullness of truth and that they would give their lives to Christ. I mean, that's ultimately where we want to go with this. But thanks for watching. Check out the church website. Hope to see you, and we'll see you next time I have some people to talk to. Take care.